haven't already figured it out, I'm an absolute burger nut. I love my burgers. So I got a copy of George Motz's The Great American Burger Book. George is an unbelievable burger historian and an absolute burger expert if there ever was one. One of his favorite burgers that he says in this book is a burger from Wisconsin called Pete's Hamburgers, where they boil burgers in water and onions. There's no toppings on the burger other than a little bit of mustard or ketchup and onions, and the burgers are boiled in water. The place has been open for over 100 years. They're only open on weekends and only in the warm months. So I really wanted to figure out, why is this burger so good and it's only cooked in water? So in this episode, I'm going to try to recreate the burger from Pete's Hamburgers in Wisconsin and see, is a boiled burger actually worth it? For the full ingredient list, check the description box below. But enough talking, let's get cooking. One of the best things I liked about this burger recipe is how simple it was, and we only got to prep one thing. So we're gonna take these 2 onions and we're gonna put a really thin slice on them using our mandolin. And we're going for a really thin slice. And when I use the mandolin, once you get a couple, you can see how the onion's on a little bit of a tilt. All I'll do is just flip it around and start working the other side. And I'm going for super paper thin onions. And once I feel that I'm getting a little bit of a lean on the onion, I'll just flip it around and we'll do the other side. And once I feel like I'm getting in the danger zone, we'll just take this and we'll put this in a scrap pile. You know, there's some tools that you'll need in addition to knives in the kitchen. The mandolin is one of them, because this would take forever and it would be almost impossible to do it this thin with this kind of precision. I'm always using my palm and keeping my fingertips up, and I'm never just using my fingertips. You can get much closer than you think, and then all of a sudden, the next thing you know, you got a fingertip in the bowl, and that's no fun. And I'm assuming these onions are gonna cook down a lot into much smaller volume, so I'm gonna go overboard, and if I have extra onions, I'll figure out something to do with them. But I wanna make sure that this burger is loaded with onions, just like I've seen in all the videos and pictures. And even though they're only open on the weekends, I can't even imagine how many onions they must go through. They definitely use some type of cutting system like a mandolin to slice all those onions. No way they do it by hand. So you can see how thin that these onions are. I love onions, especially cooked onions, so it's gonna smell absolutely fantastic in here. Oh my God, my eyes are still going as I play with these onions. Now, let's start talking meat. In the interviews that the guy from Pete's Hamburgers says that they use a lean 90-10. A lot of the other videos, other creators who've replicated this burger, they were going with a regular 80-20, which is probably like the standard like blend that you want to use for burger. I'm gonna meet someplace in the middle because I want to stay true to the original recipe, but at the same time, I know a little bit of fat in the burger is definitely gonna help. So we're gonna go with an 85-15. I think this is gonna be a good meat to fat ratio for this burger. They said that they use 4-ounce patties. Here I got 1 pound of meat. I'm gonna do it a little bit differently because I'm gonna wanna try to do a double burger, and I'm gonna split this into thirds, and I'm gonna use 2/3 of a pound for a single burger. So I'm just gonna take this 1 pound of meat and I'm gonna approximate what I think a third is, cut them off into like little triangles. And I'm going for a bigger burger because the bun I chose was a Kaiser roll. I thought the sturdiness of the Kaiser roll would be a little bit better than the normal brioche that I do, because this is gonna be a little bit of a wet burger. So you're gonna want something that's got a little bit of stand up. And then brioche sometimes gets a little soft. And this is a little bit of a larger burger than I normally do for my smash burgers, but we're not even gonna smash it all the way. We're gonna do like a little half smasher. So that's all we needed to prep for this burger. So we got the burgers, we got our onions. Now let's get cooking. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna throw our onions in here. I think I wanna get just a little bit of caramelization, maybe a little bit of color on these onions before I add our liquid. So I'm just gonna dump all the onions in here and just start moving them around. Hopefully the moisture from the onions would be enough to make sure it doesn't stick to the bottom of this cast iron pan. And I'm using my giant cast iron pan. So this is the Mega 15-inch. Wanna make sure we got plenty of room to keep the onions in here and smash those burgers. As soon as these onions hit the pan, immediately it went right to just the best smell in the whole world is cooked onions. Oh my God, it just smells so good. In this pan, I got no oil, no butter, nothing. The cast iron pan's got a little bit of a non-stick surface because of the seasoning on it. So I just gotta make sure that I keep these moving and the heat's not too high. You can see we've already got some really nice color as soon as those onions hit the pan. Remember, color is flavor, and I'm trying to stick to the original recipe as much as possible and not add any oil, butter, or anything like that. While these onions are softening them up, I'm just gonna hit it with a little salt. One of the good things about this recipe that was appealing, but also at the same time a little illogical, was I don't have to get the pan really hot. We just gotta boil some water. Normally when I'm making burgers, I gotta get the pan super duper hot, so we gotta get a sear on the outside of the meat, and I really think that's what makes an amazing burger. But this burger doesn't even have a sear on it, and we don't have to use the hood or set the fire alarm off when we're making burgers. We could just do it here, and the only thing it's making is a little bit of steam. One of the elements that seems to be a key component of how amazing this burger is that they cook over 300 burgers per day in the same liquid, and they just keep on adding a little bit more water as it evaporates. I'm not gonna be able to cook 300 burgers. We're just gonna do the 2 for the 1 burger. So I'm gonna cheat a little bit, and I'm gonna add a little bit of beef stock to enhance the beef flavor, but also try to stay true to the recipe. We're gonna use a combination of beef stock and water. So these onions have got a little bit of color on them, so I'm just gonna splash in a little bit of this beef stock. And then we're gonna cut it with a little New Jersey's Finest. And I'm gonna keep both the broth and the water handy, so as I need to add more liquid to the pan, if I do and I see that it's evaporating, I got it right here. Now we're gonna cook these onions down until they're completely translucent and super duper soft. And I don't have a lot of water in the pan. I just got about maybe a half, maybe a quarter inch. In all the videos that I saw when they were cooking there, they're not drowning inside the water. There's just a little bit on the bottom. And even the burgers are sticking out of the bottom even when they smash them down. So just not a lot of water, just a little. But you definitely want to cover the whole bottom of the pan. I think these onions have cooked down enough. They'll cook a little bit more as we're cooking our burgers, but you can see that they're super nice and soft. They look nothing like when they went in there, except they are onions. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take our onions and I'm gonna push them over to one side of the pan, and I'm trying to replicate the same griddle setup that they had at Pete's. So these are gonna continue to cook inside the liquid, and I'm gonna try to make enough room for these 2 monster burgers. And even before we even start cooking the burgers, the smell in here is unbelievable. And we're all just cooking onions inside a little beef broth and some water. I think we got enough room for the 2 burgers. Only one way to find out. So we're gonna take our burgers, we're gonna put them right inside of our broth. And now I'm gonna give them just a little smash. So I'm gonna use my stiff metal spatula. I'm also gonna use my meat tenderizer and just use it for a little downward pressure to make sure that I'm getting nice, even pressure all the way down. And I'm gonna try to make this burger nice and big, knowing that it's gonna shrink down a little bit, but I'm not going full smash on it. I'm just trying to flatten it out enough because I know it's gonna shrink back a little bit. We got a really big bun, so we wanna make sure that this is gonna be big enough for that bun. So that one looks really good. Let's do the same thing for this one. One of the things I'm liking about this is that when we're doing smash burgers, the heat's high, so you gotta move fast. This heat is low. I can really take my time. This burger's not gonna cook super fast. So I can really just take my time and make sure that I'm getting a nice shape to the burger. Now I'm gonna season the burger patties with a little salt and pepper. And now I'm gonna smash them just a little bit more. As these are cooking, I'm just gonna move these onions around a little bit because the ones on the top are not getting cooked as much as the ones on the bottom. And I just wanna make sure they're all getting cooked pretty evenly. And also, even before I flip the burger, I'm just gonna spin the burger around a little bit gently, just so it cooks a little bit more evenly, because I'm noticing that the burger towards the middle of the pan, because I'm using this induction burner, the heat's coming from the middle, it's getting cooked a little bit more than on the edges on the outside. So without disturbing the burger too much, I'm just gonna give it just a nice gentle spin. I haven't even flipped the burgers, but the burgers are starting to let off juice into the liquid. The onions are cooking here. And now this, I know I put in beef broth and I did put in water, but now it almost transformed into like a gravy. It smells really good. It looks delicious too. So now this one's starting to release some of that red liquid. So we're gonna go ahead and give this one a flip. I think we're ready here. And we are cooking in the liquid, so I almost made a big mess, but that was actually pretty good. It held together pretty well, so we know that it was cooked enough. Doesn't have much of a sear on it, which for me, I know that a lot of the burger flavor that I really like comes from that seared meat flavor. So I'm really interested to see, is that flavor gonna come through that I'm looking for in a burger? So now let's give this patty a flip. And now we'll cook it for a few minutes on this side. Give the onions a little bit of a stir. So now the burgers are cooking in the onions. The onions are cooking in the burger juice. I really like where this is going. It smells absolutely fantastic, and usually you're onto good things if the food smells good before you even eat it. We're also gonna season this side with a little salt and pepper too. We're not getting that sear flavor. We gotta get a little salt and pepper flavor enhancement. Looks like we didn't need any extra water or extra beef broth. It all kind of stayed here because we're cooking at a pretty low temperature. But I bet you if I was cooking 300, I might need to add a little bit more. So it just shows you that you're just gonna need a little bit in the beginning, maybe a little bit more, but I didn't. So once the burger's got a little bit of a springiness to it in the middle and we know it's not raw. So now let's shut the heat off of it, and now let's talk buns and condiments. So for bun choice for this burger, I chose a white Kaiser roll. And I think the Kaiser roll's got a little bit of durability to it that they were describing. Also, by the looks of the pictures and the videos, it looked like it was more this Kaiser roll style than it was like a brioche or like potato bun, but you never know. I also went a little bigger because these Kaiser rolls are a little larger and I want to make sure that I get enough coverage of the patty on top of the bun. These, unlike most potato rolls, are not sliced, so we're gonna have to slice it. So we'll just take out our bread knife, and I'm gonna be really careful. I try not to hold it like this. Should probably just hold it nice like this. Safety first. So now that we cut it all the way through, nice and even, let's start plating this. So before we plate this burger, I almost forgot we're gonna make a horseradish mustard. The one thing that I found really interesting about this burger is there's no cheese on it, so the condiments are gonna be really king. And especially from Wisconsin and it doesn't have any cheese, this must be a really good burger. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take some spicy brown mustard, some Dijon mustard, and a little bit of horseradish and make a spicy brown mustard, Dijon, horseradish mustard. So in this bowl, we're gonna put a little bit of this spicy brown mustard. This is one of my favorite spicy brown mustard. I'm gonna try to pronounce the name Kosciuszko's. Let me know in the comment section if you think I got that right. It's just an unbelievable spicy brown mustard. And now to that, we're gonna add a little regular Dijon mustard. Always classic, Grey Poupon. And now we're gonna kick it up a notch. We're gonna add a nice horseradish flavor by just adding some fresh horseradish to this. I love horseradish. I'm an absolute horseradish nut. So in the book, they said to serve it with horseradish mustard. Enough said. Put a little or a lot of horseradish in there. Now we'll give this a little mix. So now let's find our bottom bun. So here's our bottom. We're gonna add a little mustard to the bottom of the bun. Make sure we spread it around. Get a little bit in every bite. All right, now let's get our burger patties on there. And now let's get some of these onions. And I'm gonna make sure I give them a nice mix before. And that might seem like a lot of onions, but I think that's the only thing that's going on there, so we gotta put a lot of onions on there. I wanted to take one other extra step to make it super authentic. In all the videos I saw that the burgers were served inside paper, and they're probably in there for a minute before you eat them. So let's take this burger, we're gonna wrap it up. And we're just gonna leave it wrapped up for like a minute before we eat it. So I just got my burger from Pete's, we're unwrapping it. Probably gave a little opportunity for the bun to steam a little bit. Before we bite into it, let's actually cut it in half and let's see what the cross section looks like. We got a nice little bit of pink in there, no raw meat. We definitely got, look at the cross section here where you got bun, onion, meat, bun. I think this ratio is absolutely perfect. So this is gonna lend itself to a really, really nice bite, but there's only one way to test it out. Let's see what it tastes like. I can tell you this, I've never had a burger like this before, and it's not bad. The flavor, especially with that horseradish brown mustard, like this is a really, really delicious, juicy burger. The cooked onions really sold me. It's really one I want to try it. And also George Motz says this is one of his favorite out of all the burgers that he put in his book. I can understand why. I'm really glad too I went with this Kaiser roll, because this is one of the juiciest, wettest burgers I've ever had, but this bun is holding up really nicely and it hasn't completely disintegrated yet. The onions and the burger just pair up so nicely. I think one of the greatest combinations in food is cooked onions with cooked beef. This just goes into that category and really, really hits home. This burger exceeded expectations on all levels. If you're into burgers, check out my pizza burger or my mushroom Swiss burger. Those are fantastic burger recipes. I'll see you there. Thanks.